Welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us this week. If you have a suggestion for Top 3, as always, be sure to drop us a note in any of the locations that you can contact us. If you want to do smoke signals, I'm sure Blue will see it at some point. But this week, our top 3 is going to be top 3 favorite missions in Destiny. And the whole Destiny franchise, I pulled it all out as one of the easy ones to kind of do to finish off the year with. And joining us this evening, we have NobleMansRose with us. Noble, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty great.
Yeah. So I had the pleasure, and well, actually Blue and I both had the pleasure of meeting you at GuardianCon this year. So how's your year been since GuardianCon?
It's been good. I just finished up my final semester of community college since then. So finals are over. And
nice. So you're ready to talk about some Destiny?
Oh yeah. Ready to awaken the hive.
Oh boy, I feel like that's a bit of a spoiler. Alright, I'm gonna let you go first. You're gonna start 3 down to 1, just like we normally do. So I'm gonna have you go first, Jay go second, and I will finish up, as always. So, what is your number 3 mission in Destiny?
I'm gonna go with the Iron Tomb from Rise of Iron. It's the final mission.
Oh, with like Yolder, and who else was hanging in there? Do we remember?
Fellwinter, and it was
I just remember Yolder.
Galleon?
Was
it Galleon?
Was it
I
Galleon?
It was one of the hunters, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was one of the lesser known Iron Wolves, I believe.
Yeah. It was, yeah, because I know that Fellwinter was one, and then Yolder was the one that was painful. And then I want to say it was Galleon.
Very well could be. That one, I just remember having a little bit of trouble just interpreting that one, because didn't you have to stand in the little pools?
That one had, it was absolute chaos was what that one, that's actually on my list is the Iron Tomb, and it's mostly because just, I love how it was just absolute bonkers, trying to figure out what was going on, what we were supposed to be doing, and then also being like,
Yeah. Killing.
I think, as far as just, I love the gameplay of that final boss fight, because it's one of the more complex final missions that we've seen in the game.
Mm-hmm. As far as, like, mechanics of what we had to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate, like, I don't know. I forgot about that mission, to be honest. I don't think I played that mission more than once or twice, though. It was not one that I went back and played a ton.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It was fun. It was hard, but it was just not my jam at the time. Blue, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is A Guardian Rises.
The first one.
Very first one. Yeah. Without fail. I love I love the introduction and the presentation that mission offered. Because again, like as a day one, and like, jumping in, seeing it, and it was just like, it kind of set the tone for Destiny for me. And I've always just, I really just call back to that first opening line of like, eyes up, like, and just how it just, you have to hit the ground running, and you don't have it. I don't know. It just really set the pace for how it would be in that world. And then you read in the lore about different Guardians and their first times, and it's like always like, like the Drifter is the one that comes to mind immediately. He's resurrected, and it's like, go, like you gotta go. And then there's a few other ones. There's the one with I think it's the Titan in the EDZ, whose ghost has to resurrect her because she's about to be incinerated by the Cabal ship. And I mean, it's literally that go, like, and it's just, I don't know, like that's a very unique. It's both unique and it's not at the same time, but it's a unique because of the way that they introduce your character into the games. Because it's the resurrection process and like all that. And I don't know. To me, that's always stuck with me. Like that very opening scene has always stuck with me, even more so than Destiny 2's intro. I mean, Destiny 2's first mission, it sets the tone, it sets the pace in the same way, but it's not as impactful as that very first, opening line.
Yeah, it does. I do get a bit of nostalgia. I actually downloaded D1 on my PlayStation because one of my clanmates has never played it. So we're going to take her through it. And
nice.
I have to recreate my character, essentially, since I started on Xbox. And,
yeah. I was going to say, I don't even know. Man, well, I guess they technically still have the accounts live, right?
Yeah, but my account wasn't. I had to get rid of. Yeah, it ported over weird. But I played through that mission the other day just to be ready for whenever she does get through the first mission, because you have to play that one alone.
Mm-hmm.
And
which is another reason I like it. But
yeah, it just felt really good to kind of walk back in those shoes. And then you see the spider tank, and you forget that spider tank is destroyed in that section when you go through that first time, which actually leads me to, well, it's on my also rand. It's not my number 3, but my number 3 is a mission a little bit later than that. And it is when I realized in game how much bigger our role is going to play in the story. And it's during the last array.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love having those tomb ships come out and you have to hold the position while your ghost is essentially fixing or launching the array, and you have to hold that position. You really have to just control the area. It's the first really control the area mission you have to do. And then after the ghost gets it finished and you've defeated the wizard and everything, I learned more about how to dodge in and out of cover on that game or on that mission. And you have the screens pop up at the end and you see all the different planets that the arrays have been linked to.
Last Array, the thing that I remember about Last Array is, first off, absolute panic. Because you're right. It's one of the first, you got to hold this position. You didn't really, I don't think you ever, it wasn't really hardcore like that, but it was the music, the crescendo of the music for the Last Array. Because I actually, full disclosure, I actually don't listen to the game's music when I play. I actually have music turned off. And that was one of the missions. That was before I got into that. But it was one of the missions that I was it really struck. They timed that particular mission. That music score in that mission was just, it just was perfect in my mind. How they structured the music's rise in that particular one. Yeah.
It's just such a good
Pins in
mission.
chat. You were so under-leveled the first time you played that. It was... there was a lot of panic. Those nights, and then the sudden, they did a sudden bum rush into the room, and it's just you're just oh no.
All those thrall. Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
it was just and you turned around, and that I just remember that one was the one where you turn around and they had the suicide shanks. And it was all of a sudden they spawned behind you, and it was just, oh my gosh, it was just nuts.
Yeah, good missions. Some of the original D1s are really nice. But number 2, NobleMans.
All right, I couldn't pick between 2 missions here, but for my 2, it's a tie between Looped from D2's base campaign and a very recent mission in the game, an Impossible Task Part 2.
Impossible Task, which one's that one?
It is the quest line we're currently experiencing in the game to help save the greatest Titan who ever lived.
Oh!
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. But both of these missions, the dialogue is constantly coming at you, comical or encouraging. And I think both of those missions are great examples of the writing, just in moment-to-moment gameplay.
What about, Looped had the comedy moments, but the Impossible Task, what about that one in particular drew you into that one?
Well, I think, just a lot of these situations that you're in the quest, and I'll try to keep it vague for those who haven't gotten a chance to play the mission yet, is just when Saint 14 is encouraging you as you fight. He's praising you, commenting on your actions, whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the climax at the ending of each of those missions finishes with great interaction, between your characters.
This is true. This is very true.
Yes. But I think Looped might come a little bit higher more on top, just because Cade.
Yeah. I just like, oh my cotton socks. I mean, that's the best line in the entire mission.
The one in Loop that I love is the fact that our Guardian looks at our ghost just with like a WTF emote,
right?
Like, emocode, because Cade calls out the fact that our Guardian doesn't talk, and then our Guardian like literally goes to say something, and the ghost is like blah blah blah, and it's just like there's just like brief look at the ghost, like seriously.
But that's so brilliant because you know that's what every player
I know,
does.
but that's why I love it, is because it's like it's that little tongue in cheek nod to it's like, God, seriously? Like,
yeah, it's a good moment. There's some really good moments in the base campaign, specifically with Cade. Just you gotta love them.
Yes.
Blue, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is also a tie, and it is between Regicide and the Iron Tomb. Mostly, again, just so like Regicide is because of the cinematography that they used.
Oh my God, it was like, so good.
I'll be honest, I just don't have another like impression when you walk into the throne room and they have the cell moment where Oryx's wings are being formed. Like, there's just nothing like it. You know, you're talking a little bit about like the scope of the last array. That's when you realize you're like, oh, you're not just another like big bat. Like, you know, there's that sense of like, no, this guy knows what he's going to do to you, and it's not going to be pretty. And then the Iron Tomb, kind of, we already kind of discussed about it, but like the emotions of the Iron Tomb were just because I still hold to my head canon that there was something going on between Yolder and Saladin, and
I'm
it
with
just
you
made
there.
it just
so
makes
sad,
it.
though.
It does,
It's
and
just,
it makes you. And then like the whole thing with like the cutscene where you hand her helmet to him afterwards, like. The emotions that created were, and they just played on it, and they never called it out, which is, you know, you can believe either way, but like the subtle nods that I picked up on were just like, I'm just like, this is a story that has vast impacts, but it's also deeply personal, and the whole situation of what Siva did. And like that culmination of, you know, you see the horror that the Iron Lords must have gone through during the Siva crisis, you know, as their own friends and, you know, their close companions their brothers and sisters basically turned on them and became their own worst enemies. It's just like the culmination of that particular story. My thoughts towards the entire expansion aside, the Iron Tomb is definitely one of like that emotions puts it in a very solid number 2 spot for me.
I like that expansion, but
yeah, I didn't, but
yeah,
it was
a
that was
kind
not yeah. My dislike for the expansion had nothing to do with the campaign. Like I'll just preface it that it was the mechanics of it.
Now, my number 2 is not necessarily a tie, but since you guys said Blue said one of them on my list, in Regicide, because I love the callback to the very operatic aspect of that. I mean, you kind of saw that in the Vidoc that they did on it. They showed you like the cinematography of how they pulled the darkness being sucked into Oryx, essentially, is what it looks like. Then it's just a very well orchestrated, and that whole, not just Regicide, even the raid is really well choreographed. From where Oryx pops up on each side and everything. Like, Regicide is definitely going to be, it is one of my number 2s. The music was brilliant. The choreography of the fight was brilliant. I don't think it was the hardest mission ever, because there was plenty of cover, but there were some things you had to kind of watch out for, which was nice. But it's up there. It's not my number 1.
I would say that the fact that it's not the hardest one is what actually helps put it higher, because it was well, in my opinion, because it allows you to focus on what's going on a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's always a delicate balance, right? You see a lot of this in Halo, like Halo 4 and Halo 5 have this significantly, especially Halo 4. I had they designed that title or that game to be co-op. So playing it through single player, it's a slog. And there's parts of the mission that the missions are so difficult that you don't have the mental fortitude to actually pay attention to the subtle tones. And those subtle tones are really important to what's going on. So like then all of a sudden you start doing stuff and you're like, why am I doing that? Oh, okay, we must have missed something. And so there's a very delicate balance. And I think that, for me at least, if you err on the side of let's make the mission a little bit easier than it maybe needs to be, but especially for missions that are like, hey, this is important to what's going on, like Regicide. Regicide was always, I never consider Regicide a difficult mission. It's annoying at some points, but but like, exactly, what you're doing and why you're doing it. And Iron Tomb is kind of the same way. But it's a lot more hectic because you don't know really what you're doing, but you know why you're doing it. And that's right. But that's also the sense of Rise of Iron, was like, it's like, we know what we need to do, but what in the nine hells is that? Why is that happening? It was kind of confusion all the time. I think those two both really summarize the expansions.
And that was one of the things that I really liked about Taken King and Wrath of the Machine, lesser so. Taken King in particular, what Shay said in chat is that it really sets up, all the story missions really do a great job of setting up why you're going into the raid and why you need to go into the raid. And I feel like Rise of Iron did that less so, because you don't have access.
Raid felt really disconnected from it. I've still kind of did, run the machine, just simply because. Well, first off, it's a fun raid. Kingsfall killed me for raids, like the glitches in Kingsfall. Just no, I can only take teleporting ogres so much. I can only take so many teleporting ogres.
Ogres were the worst.
But like the story of Wrath of the Machine, it was like even reading it and watching, other people go through it, it's like, I still am like, okay, it's connected, definitely. But like the missions, the campaign missions did seem a little bit like, we're going this direction. And then, oh yeah, by the way, there's a big bad fallen. And it's like, I'm like, okay, there is an underlying connection, like definitely, because that's the whole Siva thing. But like the whole campaign was focused on the Iron Lords. And then you kind of had like the house. I don't know. It was kind of a weird mix for me. The other
aspect is you wouldn't have had really too much knowledge of who Axis was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Prior to reading any of the lore. So it was super disjunct, but it's a fun raid. It's still one of my favorite raids to run. The TV room is annoying, and it's the boop room. But
Wrath of the Machine's the one with Blame the Pain, right?
Yeah. That one, I mean, they're not that bad. That area is not bad. I learned how to read binary thanks to that raid. But the TV room, I had a raid team who loved to keep me out of the rooms. So instead of the boop wall, they would barricade the door by standing in front of the door and not let me slide by. I'm like, you guys are jerks. But
I'll tell you.
Anyway,
Wrath was one of the first raids that got me really into doing Sherpas in Destiny 1. I actually beat Wrath before I beat Kingsfall, and went back and started learning about the other raids enough to bring people through them. So Wrath's got a special place in my heart, and I can totally feel for those guys blocking people out of the doors.
Anyway, that brings us to our number one. But, yeah, it's, in all fairness, the best part of raids oftentimes are the shenanigans that the teams come up with. Boop wall is like the initiation for a new raider, or, even this last raid had something semi like that. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was that you had to do that basically set you up to be the fall guy, but it's just those funny moments like that that really get stuck in your head. So, number one, Noble, what is your number one?
The Dark Beyond from D1's base campaign.
Now, I wonder why that is.
I spent way too many hours in there, trying to collect my thorn, which is, part of my namesake. And, I've heard We've Awoken the Hive one too many times, but I think that has sort of endeared the mission to me. I just can't help but love it.
Nice.
Yep. But one funny thing though is I did not get that thorn. However many hours I spent in the Dark Beyond, I didn't get it till a month after they nerfed it.
Oh, really?
Oh, no.
Yep. And then I realized I'm not good with hand cannons.
That was not a good hand cannon to learn on, to be honest. Like, the kick on Thorn for D1 hand cannons, like, I learned how to shoot hand cannons with Last Word, which is also a terrible hand cannon to learn on, because you don't have to actually aim.
Pendulum swing on.
If you're aiming down sights, yeah. But, like, it was... Thorn,
I'm trying to remember what hand cannon I learned how to fire on. It was neither of those. I got Thorn, though, and I loved it, like in D1.
Yeah. I used it a few times, and then I just felt dirty using it, so I put it down.
That's why I used it.
Dirty.
So as a hunter, getting Thorn, the first iteration of Thorn, it was like, I don't care how dirty I feel. I got this stupid thing as a hunter, and I'm going to use it. I'll be if I don't use it after the pain that I went through to get that.
Yeah, because you were basically limited to as getting those void kills.
Right.
Yeah,
you didn't have a void subclass. And that was the thing, is like, so you have Titans who are running bubbles, and then you have Warlocks running void locks. Well, hunters had nothing. So we literally had to use weapons. We didn't have. What was
the hand cannon that we used? It was one from Dark Below.
I didn't use the hand cannon. I used Aethion's Epilogue, because that thing was a hand cannon. That thing was a powerful bullet hose. You just pulled you just held down the trigger and things died in front of you.
Oh my gosh!
But then I know a lot of people used Fatebringer for it too.
And I remember I finished that part of the quest. The final kill on it. I was crouched in a corner on Shores of Time with my Void Fusion rifle.
Oh man!
I did the same thing on Rusted Lands. I just head out next to the heavy ammo. I'm like, you want to talk about just like, I probably pissed so many people off in Crucible during that entire process, and it was a long process. Like, because again, you can't set up grenades, you can't set up like smoke bombs or anything like we can do now, and it was just literally every time heavy popped, I was just sitting there. I'm like, come and get it. Like, it's just
gosh, Crota's Will. That's, I think, was what it was
Crota's
called.
Will. Yeah, that was yeah. Oh man.
Thank you guys in chat.
Yeah, I was like, is it Crota's Will of Crota?
Yeah,
thank you.
I think it might have been. I don't remember, but yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I know a lot of our guys used Fatebringer for that, because it was the
wasn't a Fatebringer Arc.
I thought
Fatebringer was Arc. I thought.
I'm gonna have to look it up. Maybe they had a.
But yes, I think just a very endearing mission to me. Having gone through it so many times, and like pretty much any time you needed to get hive kills, like for players who've only played Destiny 2, if you have to get hive kills, you go to Escalation Protocol. The Dark Beyond was kind of the D1 equivalent of that grind.
And then, oh my gosh, the infamous line that everybody can quote and knows, that everyone's sad because when it was Dinklebot.
That wizard came from a moon?
No, not that one. You've awoken the hive.
Oh, that one, yeah. Yeah, no, Fatebringer was Arc. God, which one was it? There was one that was like Fatebringer, but it was Void. I'm trying to remember. But I used Atheon's Epilogue just because that thing was just a ridiculous bullet hose. Yeah,
it was. But, Blue, while you're kind of sort of looking at that, I want you to also say your number one.
Payback. Payback was mine because we get a tank. It was like...
yes.
Like, I'm a sucker for Bungie tanks. Like, did it in Halo. Like, all their vehicles have always been an absolute blast to play in. And the Drake tank is no different. It's one of the best things ever when I'm running strikes and you hit the inverted spire that gives you a tank. That is the funnest thing. I'm the person who will be sitting in the corner trying to figure out how to get the tank across the gap.
How'd you feel about the first mission on the moon then with the tanks?
I died of happiness. Not gonna lie. I did not leave the first area for a long time. Again, because I was trying to figure out how to get the tank across. Like, it's something like, I don't know, like growing up playing Halo with it, it was like, we always were the ones that kind of figured out, oh, hey, if you shoot the wing off the Banshee, you can get it through. And like, there were always ways to like cheese the vehicles through the levels. And so like, I remember when I was running the strike the first time and the Drake tank dropped, I was like, what? And you get in it and you go, and it's like, it's the whole battlefield area. And then you get to the point where they have the man cannons to launch you over to the terminal. And I remember I sat there for a good like 5-10 minutes and I'm sitting there, I'm like, because vehicles don't activate the cannons, so you drive into it and it doesn't do anything, and I'm like, no, I'm going to get this tank across. And I wasn't able to do it, but I was like, there was a lot of Austin powering through into it things.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I was doing artillery strikes across the way for the fire team that was there.
God. Oh goodness.
Yeah, Lux is because in Halo they gave you medals if you could get vehicles in certain areas. Like if they rewarded. That's funny. Oh yeah, they rewarded you for being like, no. I remember, I think it was, I want to say it's the Scarab Cannon. I want to say it was Halo 2. It might have been Halo. But there is a particular point where you can get the Banshee literally through the entire thing, and it's not designed to do that. And the requirement is you have to shoot the wings off of it. So you shoot the wing.
How do you fly it if there's no wings?
It's really difficult, but you're also in a hallway, so there's not a lot of flying as much as there's literally forcing your way down this hallway.
Scooching.
Yeah, it's
a lot. It's a lot
of
the floor like a dog.
Like the entire time. But you have all the guns, and it's like, and you just run things over. It's so much fun. Oh my gosh. It's so much fun. And then there's like the play, like you can turn the ghost sideways and just like slam through things. There's the Scorpion tanks that you can literally Austin power your way up a wall. Because they'll put like barriers. They're like, no tanks allowed past this point, and like without fail, someone's like halfway over, flips the tank over the barrier and rolls over it, or so, like there's always just something going on. That was like one of our favorite parts, was just shenanigans we could get up with vehicles. So when they did that in Destiny 2 with the Drake tank, I was like, oh yes. And then Cade's response to us getting a tank was just the cherry on top. Was
how did they get a tank?
Wait, special? What do you mean special? How special? I'm giving you a tank. What?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh gosh.
One of my favorite things back in the old Halo days, going into Forge with my friends, and we just try to put the vehicles in, like, come up with game modes with the vehicles. We love this one we had the big scorpion tank on an island in the middle.
Mhm.
Everybody else were in the mongoose, motorbikes.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
Trying to run the relay.
There's some amazing tank skeet is really fun.
Yes.
That's one where you have the gravity turned off and you can shoot the tanks up in the air, and then skeet. It's skeet shooting with scorpion tanks. It's hilarious. Like there's so much.
I'm so bad with vehicles. Like driving is not my thing.
Which is just it always every time something in a video game goes back to a tank, all I can hear is caboose. In Red versus Blue, why are there 6 pedals if there's only 4 directions? It's
right?
Just I'm oh, now that you've mastered the driving the scorpion tank. No, go back, nice tank lady.
Driving. Not my favorite, but I have no way to segue to my number 1, so I'm just going to go there.
You're welcome.
I know. I was just
vehicle segue.
I have no vehicle segue for this mission.
Vroom, vroom. No, the actual vehicle segue.
Yeah, the actual vehicle. Yeah.
Vroom, vroom. My favorite mission of all of them, out of every single one of them I've ever done, is probably one I'm going to get a little bit of flack for, but it's for Last Call. Last Call is the most emotional roller coaster and semi-terrifying mission for me, because it's one of the longest missions you can do, which kind of stinks whenever you're doing dailies and you're just trying to get through it real quick. But Last Call, where you see Petrovenge and Cade, and you do the very first mission alongside another Guardian that is not a player character, it's an NPC, and then Cade dying in the cutscenes at the end. So it's a pretty intense moment, obviously, at the end, but it's one of the best tearjerkers. There's some really great funny moments in there when you see Cade flying down on the wrecking ball, essentially, of
the salute and the WTF that comes out of Petra.
Right.
It's the best.
Right? Yeah, so oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite missions of all time, just because there's great highs and great lows in it, and it's just fun. It's fun to hang out with Cade, and I wish we could have done more of it, but
have you seen
Last Call.
The voiceover that they did for that cutscene with Shax from the Crucible?
No, I've seen the Wrecking Ball version that is burned in my brain. Not a fan of Miley Cyrus.
That one's really funny.
Grew up watching Hannah Montana.
Oh my gosh.
No, there's one where they took the whole cutscene and they spliced in all the shout-outs that Shax does during the Crucible. And it's double down, triple down. It's just oh my gosh. I'll have to see if I can dig it up again. It's really funny.
Nice.
Thank you, Jill Shar.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. I think it's time to do also rans, and we'll do that, and then I do want to do the most hated mission, just as a counterpoint to everything, because I just want to say which mission I hated because I never finished the stupid thing. But any also rans from you guys?
For me, it's the Night Stalker's Trail and a Stormcaller's Path.
Okay.
There were more quests than missions, which is why I didn't have them listed. But the recovering or the acquiring, I guess, of those subclasses was really cool. With the Hunter, just because it really introduced you to the figure of Tevis, and the Stormcaller one is just really cool, just because from a presentation standpoint, it was really well done. It just really bottling the arc was really a really cool process.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Nobleman?
For alsos or hated?
For alsos.
Put me on the spot. I think Nothing Left to Say from the end of Forsaken is another big one for me. Just I can't get over that final cutscene and the giant meatball.
Yeah. Eating Aldrin at the end.
Oh yes, absolutely. I love the direction that mission has started to take the story.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with a certain Dawning ship
that
came out this year.
Mm-hmm. I do like that ship.
Yep.
My also rans are the very, very end of I call it the very end of Forsaken. It's when we first go into the Dreaming City and you get the dialogue from Petra about all the extra stuff about the Awoken. And not necessarily because, there's two reasons I like that one. Because of Toland, because you get to hear Toland again, and for being able to get all the extra dialogue from Petra herself, which is nice because it feels like you're actually having a conversation with them rather than just do this. Okay, great. Go do this. But that one, and then I'm going to do a callback all the way to Blues number, I think it was your number 3. And because mine is not that one, it's the inverse of that. It's the Risk Runner quest. Because you go back and you're the one fighting off the tank prior to the tank being there in the EDZ. Now, I say it prior, and I know this is slightly spinfoil, but this is my headcanon, that we go back to the EDZ and Risk Runner mission before any of the events of Siva, any of the events of our Guardian being risen, and we're the ones who take out the tank that sits there in the middle of the EDZ, or not EDZ, Cosmodrome in that very first area. It's not confirmed at all, but because if you go around that map, there's no hole in the wall to go to the other side from where the Devil Splicers cut through. Everything's like back to being pristine again. So it kind of feels like a nice little callback to something we had before. But most hated, Nobleman.
Mine is also a strike. Will of the Thousands.
Zol.
And not because it's a bad mission or anything, not because I hate the mission, but when I was running through Warmind, I was in a 3-man fire team, and Zol got one phased. It was just very anticlimactic for me. I was really hoping that this god of darkness was gonna be a fight on level with something like the Final Rise of Iron mission.
Yeah. Who says that's actually Zol?
Right, I was about to say, Toland makes fun of us because we think it's Zol.
Yeah.
You think you killed a god. Ha! I mean, that's because it is kind of called out that Zol kind of played everybody for that.
I'm gonna have to do some research on Toland later, because that is very insightful, and that's actually hilarious that we think we killed Zol, but I guess that definitely fits into stuff like the Whisper mission later.
Right, and it also is an in-game explanation of exactly why what you just said, why that mission was that paled in difficulty compared to, Oryx. Like, Oryx got a full raid, and we're talking about an actual god in the scope of things. So, yeah, there's a lot to, and it's also a worm god, so there's a lot of doubt on that one.
Blue, what's your most hated mission?
It's not a mission as much as it's just a component, a mechanic, and I've spoken about this, but it's the Forsaken campaign. I don't like how our characters were forced into making a decision. And it just felt like it kind of turned me off, because I was like, I get it, I understand it, and I know that a lot of people agree with it, but, again, if you're going to make a moral component of a story, then you have to give the illusion of options, it seems, or in my opinion, you do. Otherwise, it crosses into, okay, you're going to run to point A, and it doesn't matter why, you're just running to point A, which is what the entirety of Forsaken was basically reduced to in my brain when I was playing it, was, I don't agree with any of this. I don't want to do this. And everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't do this. I'm like, yeah, we shouldn't do this, but I have to, because the god in the sky says I have to go to point A. I didn't, I don't know. That's my personal thing. Not that I'm, and it's like weird. It's like, I don't have a problem necessarily with what was done. It was the way that it was done that I kind of am like, I don't like that whole thing. Cause all the way up until then, it's like, you play your Guardian the way you want to do it, and blah, blah, blah. And, as a person who solo queues quite a bit, I kind of call BS on that because it's very anti. You have to play it the way that it's designed, which is fine. That's a game. It's a game, but the whole presenting of no, we want you to play it the way you want to play it is definitely not the case. And Forsaken kind of was the culmination of that sense for me, at least from the story perspective, because basically it forced our guardian into being this vengeful character that, like, in my headcanon, my guardian is not. So there was just that component. But again, it's not a mission. It's like an overarching component of a story chapter. Yeah. And I understand that is not a popular opinion. I get that.
Yeah.
Believe me,
I know.
I am fully aware of that. I got booed at Guardian Con for that presentation of my thoughts. But it's your thoughts. And we've talked about this quite a few times on the show. It's just, I get it. I get how frustrating it is. I know the lack of choice is something that really bugs a few people, you included, and it's hard. I get that they kind of sort of needed to do that in some ways. Yeah. I think it was it Tej that we were talking about when we were talking about like how there's like a couple ways you could have, in my mind, there would be a couple ways you could retroactively kind of recondition that, because they did leave it open to interpretation at the end. Like, and that's the one part that I'm like, okay, I acknowledge that they did that, and I actually appreciate that. And like, you know, if you wanted to take it a step further, there's a couple like really nice little ways you could do that. But I mean, it is what it is. It's their game. It's fine. I still play it when I can. So it's not like I don't want to touch it anymore. I'm like, no, it's just my opinion.
Yeah. So my most hated mission is the Touch of Malice finale mission with the...
Which one was that?
It's the one where you're in the circular room and the gas is filling up.
Oh God, I
hated that mission so much.
I tried. Yeah.
I did too. And none of my fire team from the raid would help me get it because they all had it. And they wanted me to do it on my own, and I just could not finish it. And it's just, it made me so angry. I was like, I don't care if I never get that gun. I'm never going to run that point in the raid.
Yeah. No, that's one of the ones I tricked Santiago into jumping into it. I was like, hey, you're online. Come in here real quick.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Because it was like the final end of Destiny 2. It's like, I just needed an extra person. Like, I was like, just stand there and distract them. Like, I don't need your like firepower. I just need a little bit of the heat taken off.
Right.
I feel like that was one of the missions that, being a defender main, was definitely a little bit easier for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you had the extra oomph on ability to take damage. As a hunter main, that was definitely not the easy thing.
No, God, it was so hard. It was so hard. Anyway, I was also not a very good player back then. I have come leaps and bounds since then. But that, unless you guys have anything else you guys want to add to our list this time, we kind of made it a little bit longer. I think that's an appropriate thing to do at the end of the year. Kind of take note. So, unless you guys have anything else you guys want to do, I think I'm going to wrap this up.
I think we're good.
Noblemans?
All right. I'm all right.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us again for Top 3. We will see you in 2020. And hello, future people. Remember, everybody loves a list.
I'm like, you gotta sign off. Like,
I'm gonna sign off. I'm just gonna do it a different way. I don't always have to do it the same way, and you better keep this in.
It's like, come on, Green, do it.
I got it.